Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ajulam. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you're new to my channel, you're welcome. Consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on the bell icon so that you get to know anytime I post new videos. So today I'm going to show us how to cut and sew a wavy effect ball dress for a little girl. So if you're interested, let's get started. To make a wavy effect ball dress, you're going to be needing a fishing line. This is what you will need, and this is 1.20 mm. You can also decide to use the one lesser than this depending on what you want to achieve. So you need a fishing line. This is very important. This is what is going to help to create the wavy effect. And then of course you will need an organza. Okay, I prefer using organza than tulle because organza is somehow has a little weight than net. For me, I think organza has a little weight than tulle, so I'll be using organza for that. And of course you'll need your satin, your cotton lining, and make sure that it's of the same color, and of course any embellishment of your choice just to beautify the dress. So now I'm going to start by drafting out the pattern because that is very important. This is going to be a low waist ball dress, so I'm going to be showing you how to draft that pattern because I don't think I have any video on how to draft a low-waisted bodice. So I'm going to do that so you see how to go about that. So I'm going to grab my pattern paper now, and then we're going to start by drafting out the length of the dress. Now, like I said earlier, this is going to be a low-waisted ball dress, and of course we already know that a low-waisted ball dress is any ball dress that the bodice length is below the navel point. Okay, so from the navel point you add your maybe 2 to 3 inches depending. All right, here as you can see I have my pattern paper already laid out, so I have this line marked out. This is just going to be my starting point. Now for this dress I'm going to make it a low-waisted dress, and that is why I am trying to show you how to do that because I don't have any video on how to draft a low-waisted bodice. So that's why I'm trying to show you how to do that. Okay, so now the first thing to do is to decide where you want the low waist to end. For you, some people it's 2 inches after the bodice length, or say 2 to 3 inches after the bodice length. Some it can be from the shoulder to the hip line, some from the shoulder to the crotch line. It all depends on what you're trying to create. So for this I'm going to make it from the shoulder to the crotch line. For those of us that were in our trouser class, I believe you already know what it means when I say the crotch line or the hip line. So for this I'm going to use a 1-year-old measurement to illustrate, and I'll be making this from shoulder to crotch line. That is the bodice length. Now it's going to be from the shoulder to crotch line. Now for this, from shoulder to the crotch line is very easy to calculate, so follow the process I'm showing you but work with your own measurement. So the first thing for you to do is to check what you have as the normal bodice length. Okay, so from the shoulder to the bodice length, for example, I'll just use this one here to illustrate now. From the shoulder to the bodice length is 7.5. Sometimes I use 8 because if you use 8 for 1 year, even when the child is up to 2 years, the baby can still wear the dress. So sometimes I use 8, sometimes I use 7.5. So for this we're using the standard measurement, which is 7.5 for the bodice length of a 1-year-old. So bodice length now is 7.5. For you to get the hip line, all you need to do is to add 6 inches to whatever you have as the bodice length. This work for 3 months to 14 years. Yes, so just add 6 years to the bodice length that you're working with. Whatever you have there is the hip line. All right, then for shoulder to the crotch line, all you need to do is to add either 1.5 or 2 inches depending on the age that you're making the dress for. So just, you know, make the calculations yourself if you want to use shoulder to the crotch line. All right, so for this I'll just use shoulder to the hip line because there's something I want to create and I want it to have exactly the look that I want it to have. So for that reason I'll use shoulder to hip line. So from my calculation now, 7.5 plus 6 is 13.5. So I'm going to mark that from this line now. I'll mark 13.5, but I'll also add 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So I'll just go ahead and mark 14.5 and then connect it to a straight line. Alright, here you can see I have the line marked out, so this is going to serve as the hip line. Okay, So the next thing to do is to divide whatever I have here into two. That is my pattern. I want to use this paper now to create both the front and the back pattern. So we need to divide that into two, and to do that you're going to be using the highest measurement that you're working with. Now for this, the highest measurement is the hip measurement, of course. Sometimes it could be the waist measurement depending on the body shape of the child. So for this one is the hip measurement, and the measurement is 21 inches. So I'll just divide the 21 inches by 2 because you can see my paper is plain. So I'm going to divide that by 2 and I'll have 10.5, and then I will add extra 5 inches to that for my ease or sewing allowance, or in case I want to make any adjustment. So all you need to do is to work with your own measurement and then add 5 inches to that and then connect to a straight line. After connecting to a straight line, I'm going to divide that into 2, so I will have space for the front and the back pattern. You can see that I'm dividing what I have here into 2. All right, so this way it will save you a lot of your pattern paper. You don't need to waste it. So I am dividing now. Okay, so this other side is the front, while this side is the back pattern. Okay, so this is the front and this is the back pattern. This is also how to draft a basic bodice. It's still the same way. The only difference now is that this is a low waist pattern, okay, and this is going to be like an off the shoulder. It's not going to have the normal shoulder that we normally add when we want to draft a basic bodice. So now I'm going to mark out the waistline, the armhole line or the chest line before we continue. Now from the shoulder to the bodice length, remember I said is 7.5. So now this bodice length now is also the waist line. Okay, so this is 7.5. I'll connect to a straight line. Okay, and then I'm going to name the line so that I don't make any mistake. So this will now be the waist line. Okay, so this is the waistline. Now for the armhole line, remember the method. For those of us that some of us that have been coming to my channel, by now you're supposed to know how to know your calculations. If you want to make any kind of drafting, whether of the shoulder, you should know the shortcuts to use so that you don't waste any of your time. So now for the armhole, I'll just use half of the shoulder measurement, which is 4 inches. It's actually 4 inches, but for this I'll make it 5 inches because it's an off the shoulder. So work with your own measurement. If yours is 5, just add 1 inch to that to make it 6, because I'm marking it straight from this starting point. It's not from the shoulder slope. So from the starting point, just add 1 inch to whatever you have after calculating with your shoulder measurement. So I'll just mark 5 inches and then connect to a straight line. So this is now the armhole or the chest line. Okay, you can see that it's very easy. And then I'll connect as well. Don't forget to add your zipper allowance so that you don't forget. So this is the chest line. Alright, so I will not be adding any neck weight or neck depth because this part will not be necessary. Okay, so as we proceed, you will understand better. Like I said earlier, this is an off the shoulder, so you don't need all those neck width, neck depth. So right here you can see I am adding my zipper allowance. I don't want to forget that, so always remember to do that. So then I'll just connect. Alright, so now the first thing to do, I'll come over to this front side, the chest line. Now this is the chest line. I'm going to mark half of the shoulder measurement on this chest line. So what I'm working with is 4, which is half of the shoulder measurement. I'm going to mark 4 inches here. Alright, then I will go up for this part. Now, like I said earlier, this is an off the shoulder. You can decide how high or low you want the neckline to be, but for this I will make it very small because at the end of the day we're going to be adding ruffles to the neckline, so that by the time you add ruffle, you will see that it will still come up a bit to cover up any opening that you have on the neckline. So I'll just come up by 1 inch. Okay, so if I decide to use 1.5 or 2 inches, by the time you add your ruffles, you will see that it will be very choky. It's going to be touching the neckline. Okay, it's going to be too high, so just take it little. Okay, so I have 1 inch here. I'm just noting the point, and then I'm repeating the same for this back side. This is 1 inch, just note it. Okay, then after doing this, now we are going to be determining the kind of neckline you want, whether square, round, sweetheart, and all of that. And then remember that this front side is a kind of overlapping, so we're going to cut, or rather we're going to draft the neckline in a way that's going to overlap each other. That is for the front. The back is going to be plain, so this front, we'll just take it one at a time. We're going to draft it in a way so that it will overlap each other. Now to the chest measurements. I'll just divide the chest measurement by 4, and then whatever you have, you're going to mark it on this chest line. So I'm working with 20 as the chest measurement, so divide that by 4, I'll have 5 inches. Okay, so this is 5 inches here, and then I'm going to add extra 1 inch for both the ease and the sewing allowance. So this is the point. So I'm going to repeat the same on the back, so I'll just mark 6 inches on this back. Then on the waistline, I'll divide the waist measurement by 2, and I'll have 5.25. I'm working with 21 as well as the waist measurement. Divided by 4 is 5.25. So I'll mark that, and also add my 1 inch for both the ease and sewing allowance. For this part, you can decide to make it 0.75, but for me, I want it a little free. So now I'll also repeat the same on this back side. So this is 5.25 here plus 1, that is 6.25. So I'll come over to the hip line now. This is the hip line. I'm working with 21 inches as well. Now for this hip line, I'll be making it a little free. I don't want it to be that fitted. So 21 divided by 4, I will also have 5.25. So I'll mark that first. And then instead of 1 inch, I'll be using 1.5 inches for both the seam and ease allowance. Like I said earlier, I want it a little free. So I'll do the same on the back side, and then I'll connect the point before we go back to create the neckline. And I'll be using a sweetheart neckline for this. Okay, so I'll just quickly connect this, and then we'll continue. Okay, you can also use a straight ruler or even your free hand, just to connect. So let me just quickly connect, and then we continue. Alright, here I have it connected. So this is where we are so far. I'm going to complete the back pattern because this front will complete it in another pattern paper. So we'll just conclude this back before we finish up the front, because the front, remember I said, it's going to be like an overlapping, while the back is going to be as it is. So for the back now, you can see this is the 1 inch. Remember I said to go up by 1 inch. So I'll just extend it now and connect it to a straight line, and we're almost through with the back pattern. So I'll just go ahead now and connect. Okay, so this is what I have now for the back. So I'll go ahead and mark the 4 inches. Remember the 4 inches, that is the half of the shoulder measurement. So I'll just note that point, and then you can just curve it. That is now the armhole for the back to meet up to this new chest line that we are working with. Okay, so now this is the shape that I have for the back. This part is off, so now this is the back pattern. So like I said, I'm going to cut this off. This, when you're cutting, all you need to do is to add your sewing allowance only on this part. Okay, so like I said earlier, the front, I am going to cut it out and then place my paper on fold so we can determine the overlapping part. But before cutting it out, all I'm going to do is just to extend this line. I'm also marking 6 inches, which is what I have on this chest line. So just extend the line. At the end of the day, it's not important anyway, but this is just to give you a guide on how to cut the pattern out. So I'm going to just cut out this shape out and then transfer it to another paper that is going to be on fold. There we'll now open it up normal, that is the full front. We're going to open it up and then decide or determine the overlapping part. So I'll just quickly cut this out. This is the back, it is ready. It's only remaining for the front side. So here it is after cutting it out. So this is the back, which is ready. I'm going to keep it aside. And now this is the front that I said we're going to be doing it later, and this is the one. You can see I decided to open it up. So this is just one. So I took this and then cut it out so that I'll have it in full before we'll now curve or decide to create the overlapping effect on the front side. So before we continue, I would like to remind us that our online classes are on. We have a new class that is on how to make extra wavy ball dress using either fishing line or the crinoline. So you can join that class to get for you to know the tips and tricks to use anytime you want to have extra wavy effect on your dresses. So this is the front. I'm keeping this aside, so I'll just work with this that I have here. Now remember I said that you should mark out 1 inch on this chest line, that you should go up by 1 inch. Okay, so that is just as a guide for you to know where to place the curve. Okay, so this is 1 inch as well. I'm just trying to note the point. Okay, and then this is the 4 inches. Remember the half of the shoulder measurement. I'm just transferring what I have here. This is the 4 inches here. Okay, so now the next thing is to open it up and then you decide where you want this to end. Okay, you can decide to take it all the way down to the hip line or to this waist line. So the first thing to do is to create the sweetheart neckline. You can see that my paper is open. So now this is the shoulder measurement that I have here, and this is the 1 inch that I say you should go up. Then I'm going to divide what I have here into 2. Okay, so from this point to this point it is 4, so that is the midpoint. Okay, just take your time, do not rush when you want to make this. So that is the midpoint here as well. So what I'm going to do is to take it from here. Remember, this is the center neckline. Now from here I am going to connect it. Now this is 1 inch that I say you should mark upward, so I'm going to connect it now to touch this 1 inch upward and then come back to this point here. Let me just use this to illustrate. Just take it like this to touch that 1 inch and then take it down to touch the half of the shoulder measurement that we marked here. Just take it down to meet up to that point. You see what I have? And then I'll repeat the same on this side. So to make it easy for you, just get the midpoint from what you have and then go up by 1 inch so that you have it exactly the way it should be. So I'm marking 1 inch again from that midpoint. So this is just like a guide for me to know how to place the sweetheart neck line. Okay, then I'll take it down again to meet up to the mid point. You see the shape that I have there? Okay, so this is how I want that to be. Now to create the overlapping effect, it is very easy. After this process, all you need to do is to now move it to wherever you want the overlapping to end. So for this, I want to end it on this waistline. So all I'm going to do is to take my ruler and then connect it now from this point, okay, to anywhere that I want it to be. Okay, I'm going to use this one just to connect it to meet up to this waistline. You can also use your free hand. There's nothing much to that. Just follow it as it is and then you move it until you get to wherever you want the overlapping to end. So this part now is what we're going to be using. This part, this other side is off. Okay, all this side now is off. So it is this side that I'm going to be using now, but we are going to cut out 2 pieces of that. One is going to be for one side and the other one for the other side. So as we proceed, you understand better. So this is how I'm going to cut now. This is how I'm going to cut. After cutting, make sure to note the point. Okay, that is this shoulder, half of the shoulder point. You should note that. Okay, so that you know where to attach whatever thing you want to add, maybe a strap or something to just hold it tight on that neckline. So this is the shape that I have now. Okay, I'm going to bring this a little down, like half an inch. Okay, that's quarter an inch there. So this is the shape I have. I'm going to cut out another one like this. Okay, so one is going to serve for one side and the other one for the other side. So let me just cut out another one of this and then show you how it's going to be. This is what I meant. Now this is the first one that I just finished cutting out, and then I use the same to cut out another. You can see it is 2 pieces here now. So this is how I'm going to be placing it to get the overlapping effect. You can see, just place it over. Okay, and now this is the shape that I am having. This is how I want the front to be. You can see that is very easy. So now we'll just go ahead and place this on my fabric and then cut, but make sure to always add your sewing allowance. All right, so I'll just quickly do this part and then show us how to join it. This is the back. Remember that the back is not the same way, it is plain. So I'll just take all this and then cut it out and then we continue. Alright, here you can see I have the pattern cut out of my fabric already, and then the next thing to do is to notch the points that you'll be placing the strap. It is very important you should notch that point so that you don't make any mistake, and repeat the same on the back side. So now I'm going to cut out the strap because it is very important to do that now, because if I close this up before adding the strap, it's not going to look neat. So I'll need to cut out the strap. Now I need to calculate how many inches I'll be cutting out for the strap. So for you to do that, you're going to take the initial pattern that you have. Remember, this is the pattern that I use now to cut out this shape that I have here. So I'm going to open it up. So this is the shape that I have. So I'm going to place this on it to match up with the line. This way I will easily know how many inches to cut out on the strap. Now you can see that it is matching the chest line. And then for this sweetheart neckline here, I went up by 1 inch. So I'm going to check now what I have from this point, which is the shoulder line, to the armhole or the chest line. So I have 5 inches. So since I have 5 inches and I went up by 1 inch, I will just minus that 1 inch from the 5 inch. So I will now have 4 inches. So now the front strap is going to be 4 inches for one side. Okay, so remember now, one side is 4 inches, the other side is also 4 inches. Then I'm going to take the back pattern to determine the back strap as well. Now I'm placing it again on top. Okay, so now this is what I have for the back pattern. So I'll just measure what I have from the shoulder line to this neckline. That's the back neckline. So for this is also 4 inches. Just work with your own measurement. So now since the front is 4 inches and the back is 4 inches, meaning the strap should be 8 inches for one side and then 8 inches for the other side as well. But you need to add your 1 inch for joining allowance, half for the front joining and then the other half for the back joining. So each of my strap now is going to be 9 inches. So I will just cut that out because I will be joining the strap first before sewing the lining. So after cutting the strap, I'll just sew it like a belt and then iron it. Make sure that the sewing side is hidden. Your stitching line is not supposed to be visible. So you iron it that way and then place it where you marked, where you want your strap to stay. And then for this, we are going to be sewing it separately. So you just take what you have and cut out your lining the same way, and then we're going to sew it separately like I just said. You're going to place your lining on top, making sure that the front is facing each other, and then we're going to run it all the way down, leaving only this waistline open. So we're going to be turning it inside out from this waistline. Okay, so this I'll also do that the same way. Even the back, I'll just do it the same way. So let me just quickly sew all that I just explained now so we can finish up. Here it is after sewing it together. Like I just said, you need to sew separately, and you can see this is one side and I close the side, leaving only this waist area open, and I repeated the same on this other side. So now I'll just place it now to give me the shape that I want it to have. So this is the overlapping effect. Okay, so I'm going to pin it on this side very well. Now if you want, you can also use your organza and place on the satin. That is, if you don't want your satin to be showing like this, you can use your organza and join it together with the satin and then sew it together. So at this point, if you want to add any ruffles or pleats on this, you're going to be doing that before placing the lining on top. You know, lining on top is the last thing to do, and then you just close it up. So if you want to add pleats, the time you're putting this strap, that is when you also fix in the pleats however you want it to be, and then you place the lining to close it up well. So this is the back now. So I'm going to repeat the same thing that I just said now for this back side. So this is the back. I'm going to place the strap now for the back. Okay, so this is the right side. So I'm going to place it here that I notched. You can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to place it like this and then pin it there. There you can see, just place it there and then pin it. Then I'll take the lining on top and place it over. This is exactly what I did in the front. Then I'll also go ahead and sew it all the way around, leaving only the waist area open as well. And then I'm going to repeat the same on this other one. So after sewing it, this is what I have. So I've closed the sides together, as you can see. All I need to do now is to give it a very good press, and you can see that we have a very neat inseam finishing here. So this is for the zipper area. At this point, I'll just go ahead and attach my wavy skirt, which is what I have here already. Okay, so I'll just, you know, stitch it here now and then add my trimming just to make this part to look more beautiful. So for this skirt part, if you want to know how to make a wavy effect like this, either using crinoline like this dress you're seeing now, or using fishing line, okay, you can join our wavy effect dress class so that you get to see how to make a wavy effect dress using 3 different methods. All right, so just join the class if you want to know in details on how to make a wavy effect dress. So right now I'll just go ahead and close up the back after joining this, and then use my trimming and then give my work the look that I want it to be. So that is it for today. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you all in my next video.